This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be taking our boats out on the lakes and we're going to be going around different islands. We're going to be bringing in bamboo and wood and gold, and we're going to be trying to influence the culture there. But we're also going to be trying to build buildings, sometimes big, huge, prestigious buildings for points. Today we're talking about Yamatai. This is the newest game from Days of Wonder. It's for 2 to 4 players, takes 60 to 80 minutes to play. It's co-designed by my favorite designer, Bruno Cathala. Does this live up to all the other huge games he came out with recently? Let's take a look. Here's Yamatai Set Up. It has a randomized setup so each game feels different, and over the course of the game you'll be scoring points by building buildings on these different islands. And these are the buildings that you'll be building and for the amount of points, and they'll need different types of ships carrying different goods surrounding that island in order to get the points, and sometimes you'll get extra points for building on the mountain or next to one of these prestige buildings. Now the components in this game are amazing. On the left we have these cardboard tokens for points and sacred grounds, and then the money looks cool. There's 1s, 2s, and 10s. They have different punch outs in the middle. Then of course you have the ships, which are going to be nice and thick chunky wood. And then there's different buildings that each color of the different players will get. They'll get many of these buildings. And then there's some prestige buildings that are made out of big, heavy wood. Each round, the players are going to take their turns one at a time, going through some different phases. And they'll take it from left to right. So purple will go first, they'll go through all their phases, then orange, then blue. What purple will do first is choose one of these face-up tiles to select. A couple things on here. One of the things is a special ability. We'll get to these sort of later. And the others is a number. This one has the lowest number, which means next round they'll get to go first. Where this one, whoever goes here, will get to go last, but it has the most powerful ability, and this one has sort of the weakest ability, for example. So let's say they just pull this one. They basically put this tile in front of them, and they move their meeples to know that they've already done their move this turn. You then activate the special ability on that tile. In this case, you just get one green ship, which essentially is carrying bamboo. Now everybody actually starts with some money. Now each player also gets their player aid. It's nice and thick, and it's got the color of the player they're playing. That would be for the blue one, that would be for the orange player, that would be for the gray player, and that's for the purple player who this player is. Now we already took our tile. Now each round after that you get to trade. You can either buy or sell one ship. The green ones you could buy or sell for 1, brown goes 2, and likewise, and you cannot ever trade for the gold one by default, but you get to do one of these trades, a buy or a sell, if you want. It's not mandatory. Then we'll go ahead and you're going to be placing boats around the islands, and you'll either be building or getting some culture tokens. Let's say I bought a brown ship. Now you're going to be able to place these ships. At the beginning of the game, you can place any ship on one of these open ports coming in, and then you would simply continue the chain. Now if I had another ship, I would be going here or here. And now in this case, since this is the only island I built next to and it's not empty, it has this little token, I can take up to 1 token for every ship that I placed. So this, because I placed this, I could take this, and because I placed here and it's adjacent to this, I could take this, and I emptied out those islands. Now we'll just remember that we took these 2 culture tokens for later, and then we're going to go to the 4th one. If we had any extra ships, we would place it here. If we had more than 1 extra ship, or there was 1 already here, we would have to place them off our board at the end of the game. For every 2 extra ships, it's minus a point. Then we could turn in culture tokens, either 2 of the same or any 3. So let's say we had these 2, and let's just say, in another round or in a previous round, we had gotten this. So we have 3 different ones, doesn't matter what they are. And let's say we wanted to turn these in. I could turn those in, either 2 same or 3 of the different ones, to get one of the specialists. Now the specialists are housed at the very top of the board, but let's take a closer look. Now some of these that have very powerful abilities are worth no points. Some of them that have no abilities are worth a lot of points. So at that point you would be able to select any one of these, place in front of them, and get the ability that's there for the rest of the game. We'll go over some of those later. That's basically how a turn works. Then we'll go to the next player. In this case, orange is the closest to the left, and then we'll just continue, but I want to teach you how to build something. So let's say this next player has a brown ship and a green ship. Whenever you place a ship, again, you can either go any ship on the port, or you can build off of anybody's, because these aren't just any player's ships. Everybody can use them. So in this case, when you drop your first ship, it has to be adjacent to a ship of that kind. In this case, this brown is directly next to this brown. I could have placed it here if I wanted to as well. but let's say I want to place it here. Then I could place any ship after that next to it, still chaining in a certain one way. Now in this case, I can actually build a building. One, because it's empty, there's nothing on top of it. And two is I can fulfill one of these. This says you need to have 2 green and 1 brown ship around the island. I have at least that. So this player, the orange player, would be able to put a building there and build their building. They'd be able to take this. This would be 1 point at the end of the game, and you'd get extra money. This is a trading post. We'll kind of go over money here in just a minute. So let's say a little later, let's see, a prestige building had been built here because someone was able to get 2 greens and 2 golds around here. And let's just say I was able to build on this mountain right now. When you place a building, a few things happen. Number one is if it's on a mountain, or if it's next to or adjacent to a prestige type building, you actually get to get additional points. You would get these and put them in front of you. In this case, I would have taken 2 of them, 1 for a mountain and 1 being next to a prestige building. You also get money depending on a chain. This building is adjacent to another one of mine, adjacent to another one of mine. So as far as I can chain is $1 for each of these. So I would also get $3. Now, if we had that trading post, it would be twice that. We would have gotten $6. And that's sort of how you get money, by chaining your buildings around the islands. Then at the end of the round, everyone would take their meeple and place it on the number of the shell of the tile they took that previous round. So now we turn order for the next round. And then the face down tiles will start to slide, and then they will get turned face up, and now you know which additional actions are possibly available this specific round. And then ones you took last time get shuffled up and added towards the back of this queue. Also, each of the specialists that didn't get taken get 2 coins, and this can happen cumulatively over the round. So sometimes specialists will have a ton of money on them. You might not want the ability, but you want to take it for the money. And this continues until either the buildings can't be completely filled up, or the specialists can't be filled up all the way, or if there's no boats left of any one color, or if there's no buildings left from one certain player. That ends the game. And then at the end of the game, you're adding up all the points from the specialists you've recruited, all the buildings you've completed, any additional points you've gotten. You're getting a point for every 5 coins, so that would be 2 more points. And then you're minusing those by, for every 2 boats you still have left over, it's minus a point. And you're getting minus points for any buildings that you had reserved that you didn't finish. Now let's just show you some of the abilities from the specialists. When you get culture tokens, you can grab one from anywhere on the island. That's going to be good to match them up. Here, when somebody gets money off of a specialist, you actually get half of the money. This allows you to do an additional trade, so instead of just buying or selling 1 boat, you can do it twice per turn. And this one turns 3 coins into a point instead of 5. And just to talk about some of the abilities on the tiles, is you can actually throw away 2 boats from the island and then place the ones that you really want there. This allows you to put sacred grounds, which forces people to not be able to build there. This one just gives you 2 boats plus a boat of your choice. Usually you're probably going to take gold. This allows you to reserve a building. We talked about you get minus points for reserved buildings. That allows you to reserve a building so nobody else can build it. And this allows you to move a ship to an adjacent spot, which will open up a spot for you. So those are some of the things that you can do with the abilities. All right, there's Yamatai. So I did a sneak peek of this after I had a chance to play it once at BGG-Con last year with Bruno. And so now I've gotten to play it more. I've gotten to play it with varied players. And so here we go. So first of all, let me tell you about the things that I liked about the game. First of all, Days of Wonder, like normal, amazing artwork, amazing components, knocked it out of the park with the production value. The game is absolutely stunningly beautiful. When the box came, I think it said it was £6. I mean, this has a ton of wooden bits, and you definitely get your money's worth component-wise. Fantastic job by Days of Wonder. The game has lots to think about. You're looking at different patterns. It has a lot of pattern recognition, which I tend to like in games. Bruno tends to use this a lot in his games, where you're looking at patterns of ships around islands, and you're looking at patterns of tokens. You're looking at patterns of special abilities or specialists, and how can you turn those into a strategy. So I like that there's a lot of things to think about. I like where you're trying to balance when to go for those culture tokens, and it's kind of like an engine building thing where you're getting these culture tokens, you're getting these specialists, and you're getting 3 or 4 of them trying to build up sort of this engine to do certain things that allow you to do things differently or better than others. And then you're using that to finally get in points. So it's like this different thing of how many times you want to go to the well and get special abilities, which also do get your points, by the way, most of the time, or going for the buildings, which is where the big points are. So it's a good mix of trying to figure out, do I make myself stronger, or do I get points? Almost like the same decisions where you're in a deck building game where you're getting money. At some point, you got to turn those cards into points. Same sort of feeling here, even though it has nothing to do with deck building. I think it's a good mix of tactical. Most of this game is very tactical. What am I going to do right now on this turn to best suit my points here? But there is also some longer term strategy things with some of the specialists there. I love how the game has a random setup each time, so each game is going to feel different because the mountain's going to be different spots. The different culture tokens going to be different. Different specialists. The turn order thing comes out different. That brings me to another thing I love is that turn order. I love how you got to figure out which one do you want. Do you want to go with the weakest ability that will get you first next round? Do you really need to go first next round? You might see a turn ahead and go, I really need to go first next round. I'm just going to take the weakest ability so I can do that. So I like that idea of that turn order. It's really awesome. The things I didn't like about the game. Number one, they did this with 5 tribes as well. And I've seen other games do this too, is you're forced to play specific colors with a different player count. For example, in a 2-player game, you have to play with blue and orange. 3-player game, you have to add purple. 4-player game, then you can add gray. Well, I understand they're trying to save costs by doing that, but at the same time, I don't want to be forced to play a certain color. That's a nitpick, but it's something I don't like, and I hope publishers stop doing this. Second one is this game. I played this game with a person who was colorblind, and I don't know whether this person is better or worse than the majority of colorblind people, but they could not tell the difference between the brown and the green ships. In the entire game, almost all the game long, every time a new tile came out, I had to basically tell them brown or green, or they didn't know. And I had no problem telling him this every time. I wanted him to enjoy the game, but unfortunately he got frustrated because he didn't want to have to keep asking me. I tried to remember, sometimes I would forget. So this game, if you're colorblind, it could be a pretty big issue because everything in this game is about color. You have color tokens, which I think you can tell apart those, but it's the ships. The buildings and the ships on the buildings you can't tell, and the ships themselves. Green and browns were tough for this person, so be careful if you're colorblind. This game might be a pass for you in this case. But by looking at my video and watching over, you could probably see the different colors and see if this is an issue for or not before you buy it. A couple other things I didn't like. Well, I didn't mind this, but this might be bad for you. This game, because there's so much going on, especially in a 4-player game, by the time it gets to your turn, your entire turn that you have planned could be completely thwarted. You have to completely rethink your turn, and it doesn't do any good to think before your turn because by the time you get to the board's changed so much, you just have to rethink. This can cause a lot of AP and a lot of downtime. Similar to 5 Tribes, which is another game for Bruno Cathala, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Same similar thing there, where there can be a lot of downtime. If you don't like the fact that the board's going to change and you're going to have to think on the spot while everybody's watching you, you might want to pass or play it with 2 players. The game actually plays pretty well, in fact, very well at 2 players because you each get to place 2 guys each round. It's a lot more open. If something blocks or you get blocked or if the thing that you want to do isn't there, chances are you're going to get to do something else cool anyway. And you can set yourself up for 2 turns in a row and things like that. I think the sweet spot really is 3 here because I do like going once. It ratchets up the tension. It doesn't feel quite as open, but it doesn't feel as brutal either. So I think 3 is really the sweet spot for this game. But if you play with players that have analysis paralysis, this could be a big deal in this game, similar to 5 Tribes. Now, as it comes down to 5 Tribes, this game is very different, very different. But at the same time, there's a lot of similarities there, as I mentioned in my sneak peek earlier, where you've got, special abilities like the genies to here, but these ones you get to use them all the time. You don't have to worry about paying for them each time. It has that interesting pattern recognition like it did. It has an interesting turn order thing like it did. So there is a lot of similarities, but yet it feels very different. So overall, I liked the game. I think it's a solidly designed game. It's not without its shortcomings that I just mentioned. And Bruno is unbelievable. Last year, I think, was his best year ever. He came out with a ton of games, I think 6 or 7 of them that I absolutely loved. Zany Penguins, King Domino, 7 Wonders Duel Expansion, Dice Stars, Kanagawa, and Pocket Madness. Wow, all of those are unbelievable games that I absolutely loved. And I'm not expecting him to ever be able to follow up with another year like that. But this is his first big box release, and I do like the game. I think it's solid, but I probably had too much high expectations because this one, and it's unfair to compare it to 5 Tribes because it's one of my favorite games of all time. And it's one of the best games ever invented. So it didn't hit me as much as that. It's not one that I fell in love with. It's not my favorite Bruno game. It was good. It was solid. It didn't knock my socks off, but I could see that it's very good. And that's what I think about Yamatai.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.